Live from Studio 550, this is the board meeting on KTRS.
910, Big 550, KTRS. The board meeting is in session. John Deal doesn't know how to do the Twitter, so he's not doing the Skype. We are going to teach him how to do it. You can teach an old dog new tricks. John Deal joining us via phone, the old-fashioned way. Good morning, John Deal.
Hey, good morning, McGraw. Glad to be here.
All right, good. Also with us is attorney, local Gad 5, former chief of staff to Governor Holden, Jane Duker. Good morning, Jane Duker.
Hi, guys.
And filling in for Tony Messenger, editorial page editor of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, is Jay Kanzler. Good morning, Jay Kanzler.
Good morning, Deal.
Let's start with Jane Duker. Jane, you are hot to trot over Normandy, and what's going to happen to Normandy? What's the latest, and what do you think?
Well, I mean, there was a meeting with the Commissioner of Education and then the Board of Education at the board and the superintendent in the Normandy schools. And right now, the Normandy School District is set to run out of money. I mean, be bankrupt by April. And so, the DESE came in, which is Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, came in and they heard a lot of different possible plans about how to deal with these troubled and lapsing districts.
They need $5 million, right?
Yeah, $5 to $8.
$5 to $8 million to finish the year.
Just to finish the year so that, kids can go to prom and kids can graduate from the schools that they've been in. I mean, this is April. And under the law, once they run out of money, by operation of law, by statute, they automatically lapse. There isn't anything anybody can do to stop it. There's no, legal way to stop that other than an infusion of capital in order to prevent the district from lapsing. And that appropriation is pending in a supplemental budget request from the governor and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. We've heard some legislators say it's going to be an uphill battle, but, the Normandy folks have indicated that they've had good discussions with legislators. So that's out there. And so the plans that were sort of talked about in the district yesterday were not really for Normandy, though. Those are either medium or long-term solutions. But the difficult problem now is getting these kids through the school year or in April having to move them for the remainder of the year because, by law, they have to have so many educational days.
John Deal, you're in those meetings down in Jefferson City. What are your thoughts as you listen to this?
I agree. It's probably not only an uphill battle, but I would akin it to a little bit of scaling a cliff.
Wow.
At this point. And at least for the $5 million. And here's the general issues. There's not a whole lot of transparency that's been offered on why we need $5 million. Because really, if the district's going to run out of money by April, do we need $5 million to keep it open for 1 month or a couple weeks to finish the school year out for these kids until they figure out over the summer what's going to happen? So that's issue number one. Is that why $5 million? Number two, is this throwing good money after bad? It's not the obligation of the state general revenue to bail out school districts across the state. And when we come in and we look at this and give them $5 million now, what happens in September? Next year is the number 18 million. We have to get them 15 million to get them through the entire school year again, and the year after that. And we also have 4 or 5 other school districts in the same situation. So is there a precedent being set to do this for every school district that runs into this? I kind of share Jane's sentiment a little bit, is that DESE has not treated this as the immediate problem, but is focusing on some of the medium and long-term things, which is good, and they need to be doing that. And I like some of the things I'm hearing coming out of that, and some of the innovative solutions. I don't know if they'll work yet, but people are actually thinking outside the box. But this situation needs, immediate attention in terms of transparency on where the money goes. I think the path forward for Normandy is the school districts that are receiving the students. There probably has to be some transparency and some openness as to what the tuition costs really are to finish out the year, perhaps some adjustment on that. And then on the Normandy side, what they really need the money for to finish out that last month until DESE can figure out what happens to them next school.
John, let me understand. Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. You're saying that the Normandy students that were transferring to all the other school districts You're saying those districts that are getting the tuition from Normandy to reconfigure how much they're getting and give back some to Normandy so Normandy can finish out the year?
No, I'm saying maybe there's one of the things as part of the Normandy argument is that they're overpaying in tuition to other school districts. And I don't know whether that's true or not. And so, I think that's another side of the component that needs to be looked at to see whether or not that's the case. So the argument that's being made is that so a student transfers from District A to District B. District B gets all of District A's state money relating to that student, but they haven't actually had to hire another teacher, put another desk in, do all those types of things. Now, I'm not saying that making that adjustment is a long-term solution, but certainly for these kids in the very short term, before we come in and just throw in bailout money on this, that's something we're going to have to better understand.
I mean, go ahead,
Jay. What are your thoughts?
Well, one, I think at this point it would be unfair to these students to not $5 million, while a lot of money is a drop in the bucket and you owe it to them. To say that the state, shouldn't be in the business of bailing out the school districts, I agree with John. On the other hand, the state has created this problem. And I've gotten to the point now where maybe the state of Missouri needs to get out of the community education business. They put Normandy in this position by calling them unaccredited. They were not broke before the whole transfer program. I think the idea that somebody, a board president, a board of education president from Branson, Missouri, or for somebody telling these local community schools, this is what you're going to do, this is how you're going to run your schools. You know what? These same people that are kind of basing education out of Jefferson City would be the first to say, we should not have education based in Washington, D.C. I'd like to see some of this go back to the schools. I think Jefferson City's not doing a good job of running school districts, and school districts should be run by the people that are there. And I went last night and looked up the statutes on school districts. They go on and on and on. Jefferson City controls everything, and I think it's wrong. It doesn't work for all districts.
Well, the problem is, though...
And Jay, amen, I agree with you on that. And a big part of the issue is, you've got this DESE body that's somewhat accountable to those who have to actually appropriate the money.
Well, and this is the problem.
That's where the divide is.
This is the problem. The Missouri Constitution that was passed by the voters of this state said it's the legislator's obligation to provide a free public education. And so, and I agree with you, the tension between local school districts who raise all their money, go to their board meetings, and try to run everything, that's great. And then you've got the state. This horrible tension is not working. The state is half pregnant. They're half in schools, half out. When sometimes they say we're going to control every move you make. Sometimes they say, local problem, not my problem. And, now we've created that by the patchwork of the Constitution, the statutes, and, what we give local, school boards. But if you're talking something that fundamental, which, again, everybody's talking about everything and everything should be talked about at this point, then you're talking about a shift of moving it back down to the locals.
Last
and
question.
I think that's going to also include...
Can I be clear about the Constitution? I mean, the Constitution obligates the state to provide an adequate public education, and it requires us to fund 25% of our general revenue into that. We fund it at about 35%. So we actually overfund, but I think what Jay is talking about, which is a good point, is that differential, which we're doing, we're putting too many strings attached on it, and some of those decisions are probably best left to local control.
John Deal, last question for you, because this, as you said, it's going to be a large cliff to scale to get the money Normandy needs out of the general revenue funds. They're also just hoping from the other school districts that they altruistically decide to lower their tuition costs. If the schools don't do that and there's no money from Jefferson City, are you saying that Normandy just might not be able to finish the year?
Well, I don't know.
They're going to have to move.
McGraw, no, I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, but keep in mind that this is like someone walking in and saying, just imagine your kid walking in and saying, "Hey, Dad, can I have $20,000? I need to go buy something." Okay. Well, I don't know what it is they're buying yet. I don't know whether what they're buying is good or bad. or anything else. So I think the point on this number is I need $5 million to finish out the year. Well, what does that mean?
Oh, I understand you all have to audit that, and I understand that they don't get a blank check
my point on
with
it.
no.
So the question is, are we going to get $5 million? I think $5 million is a pretty steep cliff to climb when they're running out of money in April.
So you agree that they should at least stay afloat through the school year, so that those kids can finish, and then if they lapse, and then we have to have a more medium-term solution for the next year, then at least you have all summer to do it.
Yeah. This is not an open wallet situation,
right?
Where someone just comes in and says, "I need it," or we're shutting our doors. It's not going to work that way. So we need to come in and figure out what it is and how this is going to work.
That is John Deal via phone. Jane Duker with us, and Jake Kanzler will come back. More of the board meeting in session on the Big 550 KTRS.